All right, what is the government to do when an economic recovery is sluggish? Well, come up with another plan, of course. Take a listen.
My basic attitude is we know what to do. I'll be putting forward, when they come back in September, a very specific plan to boost the economy, to create jobs, and to control our deficit.
Dan Mitchell, senior fellow at the Cato Institute, tells us why when you hear the government utter the P word, as in P-L-A-N, you should be worried. Dan, welcome back to Freedom Watch. So let's see, the recession's been going on for 3 years now. He's been president for the past 2.5 of them. He's waiting until September of 2011, 14 months before his re-election campaign, to come up with a plan as to how to get people back to work. Can you guess that plan will have something to do with massive amounts of government spending?
Well, that's my concern. We've seen no evidence from his latest political bus tour of the Midwest that he is going to do anything different other than the more spending, class warfare, taxes mix that has had such a depressing effect on the economy. We need smaller government, we need lower tax rates, and Obama is just so rigid ideologically that he can't bring himself to break away from that old left-wing model, even though his own re-election may depend on it.
And the reason we need smaller government and lower taxes is because money in the hands of investors and entrepreneurs and people who employ others produces wealth, causes prosperity, creates jobs. Money in the hands of the government is merely consumed. They can't understand that, Dan.
Well, what they do is they actually go even farther than that. They have this Keynesian argument that if we take money from the private sector and then have politicians spend it, it somehow will generate additional wealth for the economy. Well, that didn't work for Obama in 2009. Heck, it didn't work for Bush in 2008, didn't work for Hoover and Roosevelt in the 30s or Japan in the 90s. And yet they still have this Keynesian mindset that government spending is some modern perpetual motion machine.
Do you remember when the president was caught off guard talking about shovel-ready jobs when he said this?
Shovel-ready was not as shovel-ready as we expected.
I expect that we will be hearing a lot of that, we'll be seeing a lot of that clip during the presidential campaign next November. But that's an awfully candid admission that frequently the government has money to spend and nowhere to spend it.
Well, what's really amazing about that clip is you have millions and millions of Americans unemployed, several million additional Americans underemployed, and Obama cracks a joke about the fact that he flushed $800 billion down the Washington rat hole.
Where do you think this goes next? I mean, is he actually likely to come back in September and say, I want to spend another $700 or $800 billion to try and stimulate the economy? Or will even intellectually honest Democrats and some big government Republicans say, you know what, it didn't work last time, we can't do it again, we're not going to let you use the federal government and the Treasury and its borrowing power as a tool for your own re-election, Mr. President?
I think there's a bit of inside baseball Washington jockeying going on here. Obama's #1 objective is to try to seduce gullible and stupid Republicans into signing on to a tax increase as part of this super committee. And so his package, I think, is designed with that in mind, because there would be nothing better for his re-election than for Republicans to cut their own wrists and give up on being the friend of the taxpayers.
And there will be nothing more certain than to produce a permanent Republican minority than for any of them to vote to increase taxes. Dan Mitchell, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for joining us.